Hello, dear viewers, and welcome back to the channel that never settles for the polite press office summary. If the glossy magazines tell you what happened in the throne room, we take you down the echoing servant staircases, through lamplit back passages, and into the tiny wood-paneled offices where the real chess moves of monarchy are plotted at midnight. Today's dispatch may be the most delicate we have ever pieced together, stitched from whispers, sudden phone calls, and that unmistakable tremor of excitement and dread that races through the palace whenever two estranged branches of the House of Windsor so much as breathe the same London air. For the first time since the storm surge of Spare and the aftershocks of that now legendary Oprah interview, teams representing King Charles III and Prince Harry have met in absolute secrecy on neutral soil. No flag waved over the doorway, no CTSFO bodyguards escorting Royal Range Rovers through scrolling gates. Think instead of a quiet Edwardian townhouse in an unfashionable West London cul-de-sac, curtains half drawn, its ownership hidden behind layers of limited liability partnerships. At 10:47 p.m. one night last week, two unmarked cars eased to the curb. Five figures emerged, faces lost beneath the brims of flat caps and the raised collars of raincoats, a scene more la car than BOAC postcard. 48 minutes later, a second car arrived from Heathrow, 3 passengers, 2 suitcases, American accents, a single royalty protection driver who sat motionless as they slipped inside. Then all was black once more. Why such cloak and dagger theatrics? Because trust, after 4 years of incendiary headlines, is rarer in royal circles than Grinling Gibbon's carvings. Courtiers still speak of the Sussex exit like veteran sailors describing a rogue wave. You know the ship survived, yet you cannot quite shake the memory of the deck tilting beneath you, tea-urns skittering across polished wood, the sense that the next swell could finish the job. To convene any dialogue, both sides needed a forum utterly insulated from leaks. They found it in that anonymous townhouse, chosen precisely because no household footman, no prying diplomat, not even the gardeners at Windsor could stumble upon the gathering. Who walked through that discreetly rekeyed door? On the king's side, a senior private secretary, who has served Charles since the Duchy of Cornwall days, an equerry whose own father once drafted speeches for the late Queen, and most intriguingly, a constitutional advisor borrowed from Downing Street for 24 hours. Harry's contingent, meanwhile, was led by the lawyer who helped steer the Sussexes' exit agreement in 2020, plus the seasoned public relations strategist now tasked with salvaging the Archewell brand after Spotify's implosion last year. No Meghan, not this time. Nor, crucially, any emissary for the Prince of Wales. William kept his distance, a fact that ripples through every corridor conversation at Kensington Palace. Some read it as wise diplomacy. Let father and youngest son make the first tentative peace offering. Others whisper the rift is still too raw, William still too furious at the portrayal of the heir in Spare. Inside, the atmosphere was described by one mole, a person who has sat in on previous royal crisis meetings, as clinical, not a whiff of the balm you'd expect at a family reunion. No hugging, no tearful reminiscing about Balmoral picnics. Instead, a pot of strong Ceylon tea, 4 shortbreads on a spode plate, laptops open to spreadsheets outlining risk scenarios. Aides began with an unvarnished catalogue of grievances. From the palace camp, continuing damage to the monarchy's reputation in Commonwealth realms whenever Harry rehashes claims of institutional indifference. From the Sussex side, ongoing hostility from certain tabloids, and what they call willful palace silence, whenever Meghan endures misogynistic or racist abuse online. The conversation turned, inevitably, to money, not in the crude sense of checks, but in the subtler currency of intellectual property. Archewell's remaining media contracts still depend on authentic Sussex storytelling. But the Windsors have reached the end of their patience, with each new chapter portraying the firm as villains. The solution floated in that townhouse, according to our sources. A moratorium, an elegant little legal word meaning both sides, would freeze the war of words for a defined period. No palace briefings barbed with allusions to California commercialism. No Sussex podcast segments implying cold shoulders at Sandringham. A chance, perhaps, for the public to forget the worst salvos and allow empathy, or at least boredom, to heal wounds. Yet a ceasefire alone will not knit together a dynasty. That is where King Charles's health shadows every calculation. Staff privately concede that the monarch's outlook remains guardedly optimistic, but nobody pretends the treatment has been easy. His weight has dipped, his famous ruddy complexion fades on bad days to a parchment pallor. When nausea spikes, his valets now keep ginger cordial at every desk. Courtiers wonder, if the king were to falter suddenly, could a Windsor civil war erupt at the very moment the nation expects solemn unity? This dire possibility is what finally drove loyal aides to break the stalemate and propose direct talks. It is also why William's absence matters. A future prince regent cannot remain estranged from his only sibling if he wishes to carry the entire country through a period of regnal uncertainty. Where, then, does Catherine, undergoing her own preventive therapy, stand in this chess match? Friends say she remains laser-focused on three priorities: shielding her children from toxic headlines, conserving energy for carefully selected engagements, and quietly counseling her husband to hear his brother out when the time is right. Kate has never forgotten that first sun-splashed photo call on the steps of St. Mary's, when Harry teased William about fussing with the infant Prince George's car seat. Back then, the Fab Four felt real. The Princess of Wales still believes, perhaps naively, that some measure of that camaraderie can be salvaged for the sake of the next generation. But obstacles loom. How do you choreograph a public rapprochement that does not look choreographed? Courtiers studied the late Queen's deft handling of Charles and Diana's quarrels: minimal commentary, maximum gravity. Yet modern social media renders the old never complain, never explain doctrine almost impossible. One leaked text message and TikTok will dissect every emoji. Then there is the question of location. A reconciliatory photo of father and son strolling the Balmoral heather might tug national heartstrings, but critics would cry propaganda. Frogmore Cottage, Harry's former home, is now cleared out, its lease expired. Clarence House is considered too private, Kensington Palace too William-centric. One proposal reportedly floated: an informal walkabout at Highgrove Gardens, with royal photographers allowed only wide-angle shots, forcing tabloids to frame the family together rather than isolate awkward expressions. Another sticking point: Meghan's role. The Duchess of Sussex remains fiercely protective of her own boundaries. She will not, insiders insist, allow herself to be positioned merely as the apology-seeking outsider. Any detent must acknowledge the issues she raised: racial bias in headlines, mental health neglect, the stress of living inside a palace fishbowl. If Charles's counselors dodge those topics, the truce may collapse before the first handshake. For now, neither side has committed beyond a second meeting. Encouragingly, diaries are being examined for early autumn, after the King's next treatment cycle, before the run-up to Remembrance Day. That timing is not accidental. November is when the nation focuses on sacrifice, unity, endurance. It could frame a father-son's reunion in the most sympathetic light. Yet make no mistake, every path from here forks into risk. If talks unravel, William's wrath may harden into lifelong estrangement, and Charles's reign could be forever shadowed by the narrative of two princes who refused to heal even as their father battled cancer. If talks succeed, Harry must walk a line between renewed loyalty and the independence his California ventures demand. The palace, meanwhile, risks empowering a pair who have proven they can turn royal secrets into streaming service gold. Behind all the strategizing beats a simpler truth: a 76-year-old man confronting mortality wants to see his sons side by side again, once, perhaps, a final Christmas photograph not fractured by Photoshop. Whether courtiers can transform that paternal wish into geopolitical stability for the crown is the great, delicate task of the coming months. And so we end, dear viewers, where all royal watchers now linger, in cautious suspense. A clandestine townhouse meeting has cracked the ice, but beneath lies deep water. Will the Windsor men dare step onto the fragile bridge they have begun to build? Or will old grievances send them retreating to opposite shores once more? We invite you to ponder the stakes and share your thoughts below. Do you sense a genuine thaw, or merely a fleeting PR exercise? Should William join the next session, or hold out until Harry demonstrates concrete goodwill? And can King Charles's ailing health catalyze a true reconciliation, or will the urgency only intensify the family's fault lines? Tap that like button if you appreciate these unvarnished glimpses behind the velvet ropes, and subscribe with the bell turned on so you don't miss the next development, because in the royal realm, every whisper can become tomorrow's history lesson. Thank you for watching, for thinking critically, and for keeping the conversation humane. We'll be back soon with more revelations from the ever-evolving, ever-enigmatic House of Windsor.